All right, guys, Andrew Bobros here. I wanted to go through and talk a little bit about the 53-man roster just was released. And also we have 26 waived players on our team, and I want to discuss them and kind of the waiver process a little bit as well, too. I think it's kind of an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot we could discuss here, and there's a lot I want to talk about. So this won't be a very long video, maybe 10 minutes or so. But again, I think there's definitely some things I want to discuss and kind of get into. And, let's have a discussion, guys. And I definitely want to get your opinion down below of where we stand with this and where, what you think we did right, what you think we did wrong, people that we should have kept, people we shouldn't have kept, so on and so forth. But I want to hear your opinion. So anyways, let's get into it. All right, before I go into the actual waived players, which we waived 26 players today, what does it really mean at this point? Some people keep asking me, well, why, what happens at this point? So when a player, I'm just going to read the definition. When a player is waived, it means their contract is not yet terminated, okay? But rather they are on a waiver wire, okay? That means that makes them available to be claimed by other teams. If another team claims a player, then he joins that team with the same conditions of the current contract. So at the end of the day, we were releasing XYZ player, somebody else could pick them up, right? So that'll be interesting to track that as well. And I want to see where a lot of these players end up going. So it's interesting to see this, but it's definitely, a big part of, the game and why things happen the way they happen. So at any rate, very exciting, interesting information. So let's go into the actual waves that actually happened, right? So we did waive 26 players, including one with an injury designation. The one that kind of surprised me was Christian Covington. I actually thought he was going to make the squad, but, it kind of makes sense. We have a pretty deep squad there anyways. And so on the defensive line, and that's, I think, unfortunately, he will definitely get picked up by somebody. He deserves a shot somewhere. I mean, again, 8 years of experience. He did fairly well with us from Rice. But, obviously, Zach Bailey was released. This is the one that hurt me the most, our boy Mike Bandy. I really like Mike Bandy. I think he showed a lot of moxie and a lot of grit during the, preseason. I think it's kind of a bummer that we have to let him go. But, again, wide receiver room is crowded. Running back room is crowded. Right. And that's kind of the unfortunate truth with this team. I guess, the reality is this, that's where it stands. I would assume Bandy's going to get picked up somewhere. I think he showed enough that he will be picked up on some team. He'll end up on the Texans or somebody. I mean, hell, I hope to God he doesn't go to the Patriots. Oh, that's the one I do not want to see him go to. I know we were joking about that on stream. But Bandy's a very good player. I think he's young. Obviously, he only has 1 year of experience, but again, he can do a lot of good things. He'll get picked up. Sadly, I don't think we're going to get him back. That's the unfortunate truth. So, that's part of the game, right? So obviously Bradford was let go. Defensive line Andrew Brown kind of didn't surprise me about him. Letty Brown, gone as well. Cole Christensen, I think, had a really good game. I think there's a chance he could get picked up. Now let's go to a guy that for sure I think will get picked up. Jamal Davis, I think will get picked up. I think he has done enough. He looked good enough that a team will pick him up for sure. Where he lands, we will continue to give you that information. I want to track this just out of my own personal edification. DeLuca, I think, he was a bit of a long shot. Imeke, I think, has a pretty good shot of landing somewhere as well. For sure. And our boy, the Italian stallion, Gaziano, I think he'll land somewhere as well. I think he showed a lot of good stuff. I think he looked really great. I wanted him to play, but again, it's a crowded room, right? Defensive linemen, wide receivers, running backs. Man, linebackers, man, we just got too much depth there. I mean, I'm going to go through the 53-man roster with you guys at all, 100%. So you can see where we sit. And let's see. Ryan Hunter makes sense. Kamen Hall, that was a bit of a surprise to me. I think he did fairly well. But again, he's not. I mean, you'll see as to why we have quite a bit of depth there. Jaquette was kind of an interesting one to me. I mean, we only had him for a brief period of time, and I'm kind of surprised, we even picked him up, obviously due to the injuries. That's why he was here. But Camp Moyer and Krumenek, I kind of thought was an interesting one as well, too. I think these guys have a good shot of getting picked up somewhere else. I think they both showed a lot of, talent. I think it was it Krumenek or Camp Moyer? I cannot remember who fumbled the ball in the Saints game. That was a big reason why we lost that game as well, too. So I think that's going to be a knock against him. I just, off the top of my head, I can't remember who that was. Carlo Kemp, I think he showed enough. He will probably be picked up. And I think Kevin Marks could – he may or may not. I don't know. I really feel like Jason Moore also looked pretty good as well, too. So I think these two could get picked up, Kevin Marks and Jason Moore. And I'm kind of sad about Gabe Neighbors, but, the fullback position is really not becoming important anymore in the NFL, which is kind of sad. And I look at Joe Reed. This one's another one that was really hard for me, too, because I really like Joe Reed, but the problem is he just really has not excelled. He has not improved. He has not become better. And so I can kind of see why he's not on our team any longer, right? Again, tough decisions have to be made, right? And then you got Mark Webb, which is really a bummer because, Webb is great, but, he just had so many injuries. And this one right here was probably one of the harder ones that I thought was like, wow. Did not expect that. I didn't expect it also because there was so much talk about Brandon Staley really liking Mark Webb. I was really a little bit surprised that he was released, but I think its injuries became a bigger problem. So my hopes is that he does not get picked up due to his injuries and that we can scoop him up later, right, under our contract. And then obviously Sage Surratt. And this was really largely because of his injuries. And so, it's a bit of a bummer, guys. I mean, this is the hard part of the NFL, right? I mean, these guys have worked their whole lives to, play football and be part of potentially the league. And unfortunately, teams have to make tough decisions, and this is one of them, right? So, well, not one of them, a lot of them, 26 decisions. So it's a bit of a frustration. So again, what are your thoughts? Put some thoughts down below. I'd love to hear what you say, what you think, where we stand, what we did right, what we did wrong. To be fair, a lot of these players, showed some talent at different times. But again, they're also fairly young, too. I mean, look at how many years all these guys have been in the league, right? Very young teams. And quite frankly, these are pretty much the people we saw in all three preseason games for the most part, right? A lot to be said here. I will keep you guys updated on who gets signed moving forward. I'm going to try and track that as much as possible just for my personal information. I'm really curious to see, obviously, Bandy and a few of these other folks where they end up. So anyway, let's go to the 53-man roster and go through that, right? So, okay. So this is interesting. So this is exactly how we did it on our, on our live stream on Sunday, 25 players offense, 25 players on defense. And again, they did keep 3 cornerbacks, which, we kind of knew was going to happen. I was kind of hoping they wouldn't, but again, Easton Stick would get scooped up by somebody. So I can understand why we would not release him. And again, Chase Daniel's not our future. We obviously know Justin Herbert is, but they want to keep this room cohesiveness very solid. This makes a lot of sense to me, obviously, right? And I would say because of Isaiah Spiller's injury, he's, TBD, right? But it really is good. We're going to see a lot of Austin Eckler and Josh Kelly at this point. It makes sense, right? I do believe that, Kelly deserves the nod at running back 2 because, he came back so solid this year, right? And he did a really good job. He looked good, looked versatile. He made more decisive moves. And also, fairly confident, right? But with Spiller's ankle injury, I think they're going to bring him on slowly, right? So, we'll see what happens week 1, right? I mean, it's something we're definitely going to be tracking for you guys. And obviously, Xander Horvath made the team. I like Xander. Again, we talked about this over and over again. Horvath really got this spot because of special teams. And I think that's where Gabe Neighbors really was a bit lacking. He just wasn't really a value there. And for someone that doesn't get so many snaps as a fullback, Xander makes more sense to keep than Gabe Neighbors, in my opinion. So it's a bit of a bummer. I'm really curious to see where Gabe ends up. I think he's still got plenty of gas in the tank. I'm really curious to see if anybody scoops him up. I really hope they do. But obviously, we'll be tracking him on this moving forward. Now, again, this is really what we thought, right? Now, I will say this. When we talk about Mike Bandy, actually, I'm not even sure if they even talk about Mike Bandy right here. I don't think they do. Look, DeAndre Carter is the reason why we don't have Mike Bandy on the team, right? He is the reason, in my opinion, because he did very well with Justin Herbert. And the view is, look, we got more upside with DeAndre Carter. He's a better, kickoff returner, special teamer, and Bandy just hasn't done it yet. So, unfortunate truth in the NFL, when you have a deep, team, you got 5 wide receivers that are excellent, right? I mean, these guys are absolutely excellent, right? And DeAndre Carter, I think, will do very well this next year. So, I'm excited to see what he can do. I mean, obviously, Jalen Guyton's kind of our deep threat. Palmer has looked absolutely fantastic. So it's kind of one of those things where you kind of sit back and say, well, what do we do at this point, right? If we did not have DeAndre Carter, my thought was we would have kept Bandy, but we have DeAndre Carter, so Bandy is no longer needed at this point, which is a bit of a bummer because I really liked him. So let's go to tight ends. Gerald Everett, obviously. Trey McKinney, I don't think anything here is unusual. This is all where we're at. Now, I will say this. A lot of people have been talking about Trey McKinney not really being a very good offensive weapon. I really think they've worked with him a lot in the offseason, right? And I think with Gerald Everett being there as well, you'll see some nice uplift with him in the offensive game. And my concern is Parham's injuries, right? I mean, I really hope that his hamstring can get better and we get him week 1. If we don't have him week 1, I think we're in pretty good hands with these 2 tight ends right here too. So at any rate, I love Parham because I think Parham in the red zone is an absolutely amazing target. And I think Gerald Everett adds a really nice, cool athletic wrinkle into the offense moving forward. Okay, so offensive line. This is a bit of a surprise to me, and I think in our league we had 8, and I think we had 8 because we had Mike Bandy making the team. Obviously, that did not happen, but I think we left Hymas off or we left off Will Clapp, one of the two. I can't remember who we left off on our list, but again, this makes sense. Backup for the center. Obviously, Filer left. Hymas can kind of move all over the field. Zion, I'm just so excited to see what he can do. Best center in the league. One of the best right tacklers in the league, Jamari Salyer. Excellent rookie. Going to look great. I'm super excited to see what he can do. And I really think Trey is going to have a breakout year. But this is nice. This gives us a nice set of backup players if we have some injuries. God, help us, please. No injuries on the line. Please, God. Say a little prayer. No injuries on the line. I want to see Justin Herbert protected this season, right? And I just gasp anytime I see anybody get close to Justin Herbert. Like, don't touch him. Leave him alone. He's that good. And so it just kind of stresses me out. But again, I really do think Pipkins is the better player. The funny thing is that we did talk about this, I believe, on our video on Sunday. Part of the reason why I think Pipkins is a better player is he does a better job of recovering. Storm is really bad. You get him to move one way, he does not move back or recover very well. And I think Trey's also gotten a lot stronger. I think he can recover in most of the situations a little bit better. So at any rate, and I think Salyer will be an amazing, versatile player. I think at some point this guy can move all over the line, right? So we have some injuries up and down the line. I think we got a lot of plug-and-play players like Hymas, Salyer, can really move around and fill gaps, right? Which I think is going to be exciting. So at any rate, all right, so let's go to the defensive line. Again, a big room, right? Fehoko, I think he absolutely deserves a nod. I'm really hoping he comes back healthy. I think what we're going to see week 1, probably Sebastian Joseph-Day, Austin Johnson, and Morgan Fox. I think that's our starting defensive line. I think Tillery is going to come in for very specific. In fact, did they even talk about this? Yeah. I read an article a little while ago talking about Tillery, how I think the reason why they're keeping him is that they'll probably put him in more like passing situations where they're not really doing the run defense piece at all. So you're going to see sets where pretty much if we me just put it this way. If you see Austin Johnson, Sebastian Joseph Day, and maybe Brendan Fehoko or Tito out there or Morgan Fox, this is a run-stopping play. So that's immediately going to tip that off. Now, I know that. I promise you the team that we're playing against will know that 100% too. But the argument is that Jerry Tiller would probably come in for more pass, type plays to get after the quarterback. I think he's a little more suited for that, especially since we really tried to convert him to more of an edge rusher. I believe it was a year ago, or last year with, the old regime here. So interesting to see how that plays out. Again, I really wish we would have traded him off, but, I'm sure nobody wanted to get him, which is kind of not really a big of a surprise there. Let's go linebackers, right? I think this makes a lot of sense. I don't think there's any surprise here, but I'm excited to see Chris Rumph. I think Chris, look at this list that he is surrounded by, right? I mean, take a look at that for just a second, right? This guy, Chris, is so lucky to be learning from these other guys right here. And, it's clear to me that he did a very good job of doing the most with his reps that he was given. So I'm excited to see what he does this next season. But I think Chris is going to have a good year. Again, I'm hoping all these guys stay healthy, especially Khalil Mack. I just get very nervous. I think he's definitely hungry. But injuries are a concern. And yeah, again, by far, Rumph was by far one of the best bright spots, moving forward. Linebackers are interesting too. I kind of felt like we have a little bit of a loaded linebacker crew, and I think we only had 4 linebackers on our roster, and Ahmed Abigmia did not make it from what I remember. But I think there's some concerns around injuries at this point, right? And I think there was enough positive with Ahmed that they said, we don't want to let him go. We want to keep him. He definitely has value, especially in special teams. He did very well. But K9, I'm really nervous about him. His injury. I just really hope he comes back and has a good season. I think you're going to see a lot of Drew Tranquill and Kenneth Murray. I think that's what the plan is moving forward. Again, you'll probably see some Troy Reeder. By the way, I've been extremely impressed with Troy Reeder. I think he could do very well. With some of these injuries that we've had, on the line, I think you will do well. Nick Neiman's a great special teamer, so I can see why he's there as well too. I think they did talk a little about that. Okay, Neiman will also be special team play. He did very well last year, guys. If you look at that, he did extremely well. In fact, he was one of our best special teamers last season. That's a big reason why he's here on this list. So defensive backs are interesting. It's kind of interesting. I just kind of bundled it up as defensive backs, but I think also I would say this too, that I do believe that really we want kind of our D-backs to kind of be, multifaceted. And so you're kind of seeing some people move around. I know there was some discussion that Mike Davis was playing safety for a little while, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. We might see some Mike Davis at safety occasionally in some packages. I think that makes sense, right? Mike Davis is good. He's rangy, he's fast, he's quick. And I think he'll do well. Interesting though, it looks like all of our rookies made it as well too. I think obviously they've gotten enough reps that they're going to get at least one shot, one season with the Chargers. So Nas Adderley, Bryce Callahan, nothing really surprising there. Well, let's talk about the corners first, and then we'll talk about safety. So Bryce Callahan, I just hope he stays healthy. Mike Davis probably will be our number 1 starter if J.C. Jackson is not, able to go week 1. I'm hoping he will be. Everything I've seen, it looks like he probably will. J.C. Jackson, obviously Dean Leonard, and Asante Samuel. I really think, you have J.C. Jackson, Mike Davis, Asante Samuel, and then you mix in some Bryce Callahan on certain plays. Guys, that is locked down. As long as they can stay healthy, we're going to be in awesome shape. Now, Ja Taylor's looked really good. Jasir's looked really, really good. I think a lot of people are very high on him. And Dean Leonard is in the right place, but not quite positioned properly, right? And so I think that's kind of the knock against him at this point. JT Woods, I think, has a lot of work to do. So my only concern on this list right now is that Nas and Gilman really need to stay healthy, right? I think JT would benefit having a few games sitting on the bench and just taking it in, right? I think there's a lot of things he's got to figure out a little bit, right? He has a talent, he has a speed. I just don't know that he's ready to really make that step just yet. So that's kind of my concern with him moving forward. Um, anyways, but I do think that, Leonard did well. There's a lot of good things we can talk about with this crew right here for sure. Okay. Special teams, nothing really to speak of. Again, everything is, fairly what we expected, of course, at this point. Great lock snapper. Dustin Hopkins is an excellent. He's a good kicker, not an amazing kicker, but a good kicker. And J.K. Scott is one of the better punters out there. I think bottom line, Scott is awesome. I'm very excited about his hang time. 5 seconds? So, all in all, I think this makes sense. I think this is fairly similar to what we did. I think we were just 1 or 2 off of each one of these, but adding Mike Bandy on the offense, and I think somebody else. I think maybe we added somebody else on the defense. I can't remember who we added, but at any rate, I'll go back and look at that. But guys, let me know what you guys think. I'm really curious to see what your thoughts are. Where do you think we stand? How we're going to stack up week 1? I'm excited, guys. I think this is a great team. It's got a lot of depth. And, as Khalil Mack always says, we're a paper team, right? We just got to go out and prove it. So we're at that stage now where we need to go out and actually prove it. And I'm excited to see this happen week 1. Whew, I'm excited. I'm so excited to see football again. And anyways, and again, guys, this is YouTube and, all the other medias. But again, follow us. We're also on Facebook. We're on YouTube. Obviously, we're on YouTube and also Instagram, Twitch, the whole deal, right? So we are on everything. So, follow us in some other areas. I do know that we are posting a lot more information around fantasy football on Instagram, right? So that's kind of where we're putting a lot of that work into. So again, it's a little bit more, relevant for Instagram, right? So check us out. So guys, as always, bolt up, and I'm Andrew, Bolt Bros. See you guys in the next one.